So we're live.
We're live. Hi.
Hi, Dee. It's a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you very much, Cass, for having the patience to get through what we've been through the last few minutes to actually make this contact.
Well, actually, you managed it pretty well. You managed to activate the camera and everything, so it worked at the end.
Don't ask me how I did it, though.
Well, I must confess, you are actually probably the most famous person I have interviewed on this show. I mean, the highest subscriber was like I interviewed someone with 5,700 subscribers, but you have 200,000. That's crazy.
230,000.
Oh, yep. Sorry for them.
Please, please.
Yeah, 230. So let's get into that. How did you start sharing your wisdom on YouTube?
First of all, I'd challenge that word wisdom. I don't see myself as having wisdom. I'm just me. And what you see is what you get. And over 2 years ago, I posted just a little piece on hypnobirthing because I still do a little bit, counseling, hypnotherapy, hypnobirthing. And it just sat there for a good while. Then my website disintegrated big time. So I thought, okay, I need to take another approach. I've got this YouTube channel. Let's start communicating on there. So that's when I started basically walking and talking out in gardens or nature for people who can't get out and about. And I was thinking of a friend who is housebound, and I thought it was a way to get her to share things with me. That's how it started.
So your inspiration was your friend, or what was the inspiration behind like moving to the YouTube channel? And I have a lot of questions about the hypnobirthing. I'm going to come back to that.
Only because I happen to have it set up, and I'm not into all of the TikTok, Instagram, etc. I've no idea how they function. My granddaughters keep saying, "Oh, you've had so many views on TikTok." Okay, right. I've no idea how to get on there if I ever wanted to, but that's why I stuck with Instagram, come on, brain, you can do it, with YouTube.
And what is hypnobirthing?
It's working with couples when they are pregnant and teaching them hypnosis for relaxation, but also teaching them how the body actually works during pregnancy and birth, which people don't tell you. And, most women sort of go, but that is going against the baby getting out. So being able to relax through it, and people say, "Oh, I can't do that," but they do. And it makes a big difference.
That's interesting. So you know how to hypnotize people, essentially.
Yes, yes.
And to me, the art of hypnotizing people is just it looks like magic, but I know there are like scientific backing, it actually works. But
There is, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you.
It's only relaxation. There's nothing weird or wonderful. And if I'm doing hypnotherapy, i.e., maybe stopping somebody smoking or fear of heights, whatever, I will always have an introductory session and just do a piece of relaxation. Because no matter what you say, they think it will be something weird. But it isn't. It isn't.
How often do you see success with hypnotizing people to quit smoking?
That is a bit of a hit and miss one, because I cannot make somebody do what they don't want to do. So if they, somewhere in them, really enjoy still smoking, I can't
It's
do
pretty
that.
hard. Yeah. Well, what is the most important life lesson you've learned over the years? And like,
Oh,
obviously you have a practice where you do these hypnotizing sessions and stuff, so you
mhm.
actually get a lot of insight into people's lives. So
Basically, there's a lot of people out there struggling with life in one form or another. We've got the people who think they've got it all and are glittering through life, but there's a lot of people struggling. Um, I know I can't mend the world, but I can mend little bits of it, or help them to mend themselves, which is more important.
yeah, I think that's a very beautiful perspective. And as we're going on with the world, I think everything is getting more complicated. Even for a young person like me, I sometimes find myself lost in all the chaos of the world. Like there are two major wars, and then there's artificial intelligence, which like develops really quickly. And I mean, I don't think I'm the only person, but most of my friends, we feel lost and we feel like we can't catch up with technology anymore. As we like the younger generation used to be the ones who are good with technology, but I feel like we're losing that grip.
Imagine how I feel then.
Yeah.
When I first was introduced to computers, it was an old BBC that you used to have to sort of switch on, let it warm up and get going. And I was working in a primary school at the time, and it was a wet playtime. So the children were in the classrooms. I was on duty going around all the classrooms. The rest of the staff were having coffee in the, no, going around the classrooms. The rest of the staff were in the staff room. And I went into one of the rooms and there was this beep, beep. And I thought, it's the fire alarm. Right, everybody out. And I ran round the school. Didn't strike me that I couldn't hear the beeping any longer. Emptied all the classrooms, everybody out on the playground, line up in the pouring rain, and the staff looking out of the window. What's she doing? And and it was this BBC computer against the window, and it was making this vibrating, beeping sound.
It must have been scary.
I was never allowed to forget that.
Well, what do you believe is the key to a happy and fulfilled life?
I don't think there's one key. I think there's lots. It depends. Some people, it's a lot of money. Some people, it's the biggest house, the biggest car. But for me, it's feeling content with what you've got.
And how can one reach that contentment? Because I mean, for me, as a 24-year-old recently graduated, I'm going to search for jobs and stuff. I feel like money is such an important factor.
It
And I
is,
feel like a
yes.
lot of young people have that idea too, but how can I master that contentment within me?
You live in the here and now. I mean, I
Mm.
use mindfulness. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, yes, I love meditating. I meditate every day.
Yes. So that's a good way of keeping you grounded, so
Mm.
that you are accepting of things whilst you still have to pursue your job requirements to presumably pay off your student grants, etc., before you start.
Oh, thank God I don't have student grants, but I can't imagine the
Oh,
people who have them. I mean,
no,
it must be
no,
pretty hard. Yeah.
yes.
So, mindfulness, and what form of mindfulness would you recommend? Like, because there are multiple types.
I just go with the very basic. I start my day with gratitude, end my day with gratitude. And whenever I'm out and about, I make sure that I cue into what I can see, hear, touch, but also what it makes me feel. So
Okay.
I do meditate, but I find it hard to focus. So I prefer a guided relaxation. That suits me better.
Do you
This
use
old
any
brain doesn't stop very easily.
do you use any apps, or do you use
I
YouTube for
use
that?
my own recordings, which took some getting used to because I knew that I would make a point at which I changed a word because I'd made a mistake. But, you know, thinking on my feet.
Well,
But
I
now
think
I accept that.
those would be good content for YouTube, and others could use your guided meditations too.
I've posted one,
Really?
but yes, a walk along a beach.
Okay, I'll
So
definitely check that one out.
mhm. I need to do some more, but that's a winter task because I would want to freshen them up and start from the beginning.
Is there a particular uh, advice you gave that had a profound impact on someone? Perhaps a story from your followers?
Um, One thing that I believe in is that you're never too old for anything. And I had one client, I have mentioned him on my channel before, and it was a long time ago, so that's fine, who had been badly abused. And he came, it took him some time to see him walking past, walk past the other way. And I thought that must be him. Anyway, he eventually plucked up the courage to come in.
Mm.
And he went from being this isolated person who trusted nobody, communicated with nobody, that gently and gradually we worked on the social skills. He didn't know how to chat. So
Mm.
I said, if you're standing next to somebody at the bus stop, what do you do? He said, I turn the other way. So
Mm.
just slowly and gently, he moved into the world around him. And that gave me a great, yeah.
Wow. This,
I mean, we even rehearsed how to shake hands and things like that. He didn't know that.
I think to a varying degree, everyone has social awkwardness and avoiding social situations at certain times. But
Absolutely.
it's a profound thing to do to bring someone into society like that.
Yes, we can easily form a wrong impression. I was at, you know, these, if you go on a course and they have the integration thing at the beginning, and I'd been saying something to everybody, and there was one guy left, a young man. He'd got tattoos and piercings everywhere. And I'd thought, oh, he's not going to be my kind of person, you know, Mrs. Middle-aged and everything, as I was then. And so we faced each other. I said, I've got to be honest, you know, I've been avoiding you because I didn't think we would have anything in common. He said, I've been the same. I've been avoiding you because I thought you were an old biddy. And you know, we got on like a house on fire.
Usually the ones that look rough on the outside, they're usually very soft on the inside. It's
I like people like that. I really do. Yes.
I'm presuming that you're a therapist. Is
Yes.
that so you are, and how many years have you been a therapist?
It will be nearly 30 years now.
30 years.
When I was teaching, I knew that when I retired, I needed something else. I needed to
Hmm.
be doing something. So I did my training as a counselor. And then I did my training as a hypnotherapist and hypnobirthing. So I was doing that on top of a 6-day week. I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I did it. And I've loved it ever since.
Interesting. And what is one profound story from your practice? Is it the one that you already said, or is it there one which affected you
I
greatly?
think my first one ever, I wasn't qualified, but as an older person, obviously I got experience of life and everything, which was a big help. But I was working as a student counsellor at a local university, and they had set up for me my first ever counselling session, a young lady who had problems with time management. So it wasn't anything that was going to be too emotional for either of us. And the two counsellors went with their clients, and then the secretary came. She said, "I've got a young man who is desperate. Will you see him?" So I said, "Well, you know, I've got," she said, he won't stay, he won't wait. So I said,
Mm.
"Okay, if you just let the other client know." So I went in with him, and he had been gang raped. And so I worked with him thinking, okay, this is in at the deep end. Shut off what I was thinking and focused on him. And
Mm.
we talked it through, we worked it through. And at one point I said, "How are you really feeling?" He said, I'm fine. I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" "No one's ever asked me that," he said. He said, "It means I'll say, flipping,
Mm.
insecure, negative, and empty." And then we began with the real therapeutic bit. And we were together for about 2.5 hours or more. And he went off, and I never knew. I looked in the papers, never saw anything about anybody committing suicide from the university. And when he graduated, I got a lovely letter forwarded to me to say thank you. And that really, well, I just sobbed. So
Wow,
it was amazing. I was
that's a
so
crazy
grateful to
story.
him. Mm.
And how long did his therapy take? Like
We just had one 2.5 hour session.
just
Um,
one?
whether he saw the other counsellors after, I don't know.
Oh, that
But
shows how.
normally something like that, I would have expected to have more, but I never saw him again.
Hmm. I mean, obviously, you must have come across these saddening cases a lot. How do you basically balance it? Like, not allow it to spill over to your life or affect your mood? Because
Coping.
I want to become a psychiatrist, and my friends always tell me like, how do you want to become a psychiatrist? You always see people in their miseries, and it's a valid question. And I always ask myself, like, do I have that strength not to allow that to take over my brain?
You have to. I have
Mhm.
coping mechanisms that if I've had a heavy session, the music goes on loudly and I fling myself around and I sing to it. Supervision. We have to have supervision to offload. And I have to say, I imagine I've got my supervision. That supervisor has their supervisor, and I have visions of some poor so-and-so sitting at the top of the pile who's got everybody's woes piled on top of them. But it's also a realization that if you don't cope, then what message are you giving to your client?
Mm,
I have cried with them sometimes because what they've said has been so horrible.
mm,
But then I've always explained, you know, that really touched me. And it's not because I feel that you should have done anything differently or anything. It's, I'm crying with you, not at you.
mm.
And being honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Because
mean,
that therapeutic relationship, you're on hiding to nothing if you don't establish that.
mm. And as a therapist, what is the greatest pathology you see in people's psyches? Like, what is everyone mostly suffering these days from? Is it loneliness, addiction?
There's a lot of loneliness. I think there's a lot of hidden addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Addiction to things that, it's not drugs and alcohol. They might have other addictions that they see as a coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
maybe overeating, that they just see as maybe being a bit greedy, but they become addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not one of the big list, they just get on with it and get worse and worse. But yes, loneliness as well, but also people feeling that fear of the world around.
Mm.
There's a lot of people affected by that.
When you mean fear of the world around, does that mean like fear of people, fear of social situations, those type of things?
Yes, but also the war situations
Mm.
and threats that, is it going to escalate? What will
Mm.
happen? And the fact that the global warming issues seem to be going further and further onto the back burner.
Mm. I feel like
Um,
there's a lot of uncertainty in the world these days, and that's why,
yes.
and we're naturally afraid of the unknown, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
In
Some
your,
see it as a challenge, but most are afraid of it. Yes.
yeah, I mean, I like the fact that human life is mostly plagued with uncertainty and the unknown, but there is a little bit
Mhm.
of a fear factor to it.
Yes. Yes.
Throughout your practice and also your YouTube journey, I mean, knowing
Mhm.
all this background story, like I think you deserve to have 200,000 subscribers. I mean, who would be
Thank you.
more fit to give life advice? But has there ever been moments where you felt your wisdom was misunderstood or ignored?
Yes. Yes. Uh, I didn't take it very well either. It was somebody that I knew very well, and my teaching, I ended up as a special needs advisory teacher. So that was obviously my strength. I'd done a lot of training. And I was helping this little one with homework at the age of 5, which I didn't like anyway. And I said to the mum and dad, do realize that they've got a big problem with maths. No, 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 no. School would have said something. I said, okay, fine. Just remember it's what I do. I'm happy to set up a program for school. No, no, no. And then 2 years later, oh, we've just found out that she's got a problem with maths.
Mm. So yeah, so you were basically working with this child and then you noticed she has developmental problems, or was it just she had
Just
math problem?
just the maths,
So it
yes.
was a small problem that was probably solvable.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
It's not English or any language. You can get away with not being able to work with some spelling patterns, or
Mm.
you've got Grammarly to check everything, and you can just carry on and paper over the cracks. But with maths, you need to go right back to basics, to where
Mm.
they've dipped out somehow on that initial learning.
Yeah.
Fill in that gap, and then you can move on.
Yeah, if they probably listened to you, it would have they probably benefited. But
Yes.
turning into wisdom and reflection, which you clearly stated that you don't think you have wisdom, but your YouTube channel probably says otherwise. What are some pieces of advice that seems to resonate the most with your audience on YouTube?
Getting them to put themselves on the pile, if at the top of the pile if they can, but so many people put themselves down and
Mm.
don't consider themselves. Maybe they're people pleasers, or maybe they're just in a situation where they feel that everybody else comes first and that they
Mm.
need to sort that.
But sometimes I feel like it's also the environment. Like if enough people tell you that you're not good enough, I think you'll be convinced.
Oh, absolutely. But
I
then
mean,
if you're telling yourself you're not good enough, then you're really convinced.
yeah, I think I
Mm,
have a personal story with this because I was never good in high school and uh, like I barely passed my subjects and I was always by the principal's office. And when I was in med school and like the fourth year, fifth year, because
mhm.
the reason I was bad in high school was because I didn't know what I want to do. And studying
Okay.
all the things that school was forcing, it just seemed very useless.
Mm,
So most of my teachers, most of my principals, the people who I knew from school, they thought I was just dumb. And because of that environment, I also reinforced that on myself. But when I realized I really want to become a doctor, I really want to become a psychiatrist, everything shifted. Like it
mm.
didn't matter. And I realized that it showed me the effect of how people's opinion might basically damage you at certain points.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But
As,
yours in particular, once you had cued in onto that, then yeah, I'm thick, I'm dumb. Oh, so why should I bother?
yeah, I mean, for me, it was
Then,
just like, if I fail, I failed. I mean, I don't
mm,
care. At least I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't have this what if in my mind forever. I'll go into med school and what do I have to lose? I'll just fail out and then I know I don't have the strength for med school. And it turns out it wasn't actually that bad. I
mm,
mean, it was pretty hard, but I passed through it. I feel like a
well
lot of
done.
people need to understand that.
Yes, yes. And some people are late starters that they don't have the impetus for whatever reason. And
Mm,
boys in particular, I mean, I remember teaching young boys to read. If you give them one of the typical readers, can't be bothered. But I'd
mm.
make my own books about cars and aeroplanes and buildings and things, and they were suddenly interested. So you've got to light that fire at the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I feel like a teacher must basically touch the child's heart because I was bad in
Exactly.
every subject, but my love of biology came through my high school teacher, and he was the only teacher I loved next to my literature teacher because
Mhm.
they both like all the other teachers I felt like they didn't treat me well, but my biology teacher, for example, got me to the corner. He was like, "I know you got this," and he would like actually take his time and sit and teach me the concepts in a class of like I don't know 20, 25 people. And then my literature teacher once came up to me and he was like, in the teacher's room, they talk about how naughty you are and how you don't listen and you just jump around. But in my class, you just sit and listen. I don't believe them. And that
Mm,
that I think
yes.
that rooted a love of biology and literature from an early age into me.
How did it feel having that mirror held up to you?
I mean, when I was a child, I didn't realize it, but now that I'm in this stage of my life and when I look back, I see how great the impacts were.
Mhm,
Like they I mean, I have two things that I enjoy most in life. The one is literature, reading, and
mhm.
then the other one is biology.
Yes.
And in literature, for me, I'm a very slow reader, but I enjoy the text so much that I don't mind that. I can't
Mm,
do this scan reading everybody does and they read five or books in like 2 weeks or something. I can't do that, but I enjoy every book I read. And that was because of those teachers, I think.
I'm with you on that one, absolutely.
Mhm.
I don't like audio books because I can't take it in as easily as the printed word.
I know, right? There's
Um,
there's something about reading that sticks. When I listen to
mm,
audiobooks, I just forget the context of the books really fast.
yes, yes, yes. But each their own. But
Yeah.
I'm the same. It depends on how we take in the knowledge. I mean, I'm very much a multi-sensory learner.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just hear an instruction, I have to think it through and see it through, and then I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But in a classroom, if they're only using one approach, then you're losing quite a lot of the children. The good old multi-sensory approach comes into play.
I feel a lot of schools are not like that. They just have one approach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The joys, but getting people to imagine things, use their imaginations is essential. I mean, when you talked about the number of subscribers I have, when it started to grow, I imagined a football stadium full of people. And I thought, that's a lot of people. But
Yeah.
now it would be a very big stadium or several, and that just blows my mind. And then we
Yeah.
keep having these people saying they think of me as grandma and call me grandma. And I just keep saying, well, I hope they're not all expecting a birthday card from me. If that's how they imagine me, fine, I can go with that.
But it's really amazing the way you have created that air of warmth in your page that people feel free to do that.
Yes. And I have to say, I'd touch wood if there was any around this.
I have wood
Um,
here. That's it.
Thank you. I have been very fortunate in, I'm leaning on an open door here, not having many nasty messages.
Mhm.
I just delete them straight away. I've got some that I don't understand.
Mhm.
Um, and some, I have to put through Google Translate. And I had one recently from a lady in Ireland, and she'd written a message in Irish. So I translated it, and I thought, I'll write back to her in Irish. So I wanted to say my pleasure. So I clicked that into Google Translate and wrote the answer. And she came back giggling. I don't know what you think you've said, but it doesn't make sense. Oh, that'll teach me to be a smart aleck, won't it?